Okay, good evening, guys. My name is Otenek Oluwatobi, and on Slack, I'm Silver Coats. And today I'll be walking you guys through some basic things. So the agenda for today is one, which is the introduction to HTML tables and the tags. Then also introduction to HTML forms. Then implementation of HTML table tags, implementation of HTML form tags, implementation of HTML forms using tables, and the last one is basic HTML form validation. Yeah, the way I want us to actually go through this is actually through coding, because I believe I don't just want to do a lot of talking that will just talk, and at the end of it will not be productive for today. So the best way I would like us to go through this thing is by coding. That's why you can see like my last 4 things I'll be doing is just about implementation, while we see the live thing, so that I would not have to say, oh, just only the theoretical aspect, but the practical aspect is actually what makes you a developer, what you can show for. So let's get into the game. So introduction to HTML table. Then first, what is HTML tables? Like we know it's normal. Okay, in the layman kind of form of table, HTML form of table, we have chair, what's it called? On the table now, we have 4 legs. You know how it is being arranged. So we take it that table is actually like an arrangement, a perfect arrangement for things. Even from my slide tell you, this is like a table form. This is a table form. So first, when you're creating a table, the tags you need more when you're creating a table is the table, which the meaning of the table is create a HTML table. So then also we have the T-head, which is actually like the way it's said, which actually is, we're talking about articles, how we can actually break down, how we can break down an HTML skeleton in our previous class. So we know about the tags that we have the P tag and all that. T-head too is also a tag. T-body is a tag. T-h is a tag. T-r is a tag, and all have their meaning. Just take HTML, like coding generally as English language, but now they now abbreviate everything in English language. For example, the T-head, it means table head. T-body is table body. Then you have your TR, which is like table row. TD, which is your table data. Then T folder is table footer. So after that, we also have, then we also have the forms, but I want us to actually know the tables first, implementation of tables before we move down to form. So in the practical aspect, these are the things we'll be going through. We would be previewing something like this on the table. This is the kind of thing that we'll be doing with the tables. We'll be building something like this using tables and all that. So as I said previously, I want it to be a practical class where you would actually know how it is being done. So the way it is being done, so let's move into that. First, you open your VS Code, but I would advise anybody who is a beginner to actually download VS Code. You can actually see a lot of, a lot of ID that you can actually use, but VS Code would actually enable you as a beginner to know how to actually code, because most of the things there, some of them for HTML now, they're like suggestion already. You get them like a suggestion. So I open my folder. Then in our previous class, we learned about creation of files, which is like the HTML file. That's the first one you actually created. We've not gone to CSS. So an HTML file is first one. Let me use index.html. It can be any name, but the major name people like using is this. Okay, you can't see my code. Okay, index. I don't know if you can see my code now. Okay, index.html. Sorry. So with that said, There's also a short form. So why I said VS Code, one of the reasons why I said VS Code, which is actually good, is, oh, sorry. So let me see. Let me reshare. Jesus. Oh, sorry about that, please. So I don't know, my screen is back up. Sorry about the breaking transmission. So why I said VS Code is actually preferable that you can actually use VS Code is, first, with Shift. Let me press it so that you can actually see what I mean. Shift plus this your sign, it actually brings out what you need. From what you can even preview here, it's telling you what would be seen. So let me just get into that. It was actually shown from those that actually missed our previous class. You would actually see that. So with this, you have your title. All this has actually been treated from our previous class. So I'll change this. Since the first thing we're actually doing is tables. So I'll just make my title tables. Then, like I said, table, when you start with the table element, like table tag, the first thing you should actually put, oh, sorry, is the table, which is this header part of it. So I'll go with table. The reason why I say that you use VS Code is it auto predicts things for you already. So me pressing T already, I can actually see what I want. So with table, it auto predicts everything I need. So I press enter. Then the next thing I actually spoke about that we'll be doing, the next one is T-Ed. With T-Ed, you will not see anything. Even when you preview this table, you won't see anything in your browser. You also, in our previous class, you actually were taught how to use Live Server. So that loading the extension, then clicking on Open Live Server would actually open you up to Live Server. So you would actually see that there's nothing there. There's nothing there. So the next one is the T-Ed that I spoke about. So just pressing T-Ed would bring it out for you. So this is your T-Ed. Even when you preview this, you won't see anything. Control save it, then preview. Nothing is still going to be shown to you. All this that I said, they are like article tags. Like the way you have that example of an article, there are tags that is not visible. You can't see them doing anything unless they have, just like number P tag and all that. They don't have anything. They need something to be enclosed in them before you can actually visualize it. So we have, then the next one I actually wrote here, which is the T body. You would not also visualize anything using the T-body. These are just like containers that you actually just need to wrap your things, what you're actually doing. So you just need to wrap what you are doing. Sorry. Then the last one I said, T-footer. You don't actually need them, but it's just to beautify, and also their functions. T-head is dynamic. I would actually love to show an example of how T-head is also. So before we actually close the class, I'll show an example of T-head. Then we have TH, which actually creates a row on the HTML table. We all know what row means. Sorry, create a heading on each column. Like we all know what heading is. You see the difference between TH and all these three tags. The major tags you actually need are TH, TR, and TD. Those are the major tags that you need in creating a table. With this table too, table is actually the main thing, which is like the parent container before all this one, which are like the child containers too in them. So on the T-head, you can actually have, first thing you need is your TR, which is like table row. That's the first thing you need to actually put whenever you're creating a table. And T row from here, it means that is helping you to create a row on your HTML tables. That's the function of T row. So coming to my code, and I use my TR, I already get my suggestion. Then in my TR, even though I preview my TR, there's nothing will be shown on my screen. My TR is just like a parent container that is actually boarding, like parenting my other elements. So there I can actually now have the other things which are going to be inside, which is like the TD or the TH. The TH and the TD, I would actually show the difference between both of them also in this video. So I would actually want people to take it like this. TH is like an heading. TD, which is table data, it just only holds data in it. Heading and data. So take TD like P tag, but not P tag, but take it like a P tag. P tag are always very small, while the TH are always very large. They're larger. They're bigger in the sense that are bold. You can actually see them well. So we will see the differences between them. Then I say that it's not a practical class. It's not a theoretical class. It's actually going to be good when it's a practical class where you can visualize what we're actually doing. So with TH, you have, let me see, you have your TH. Then your TH can have your element inside. For example, let me put my first element from what I said we'll be doing. I said we'll be creating this table. This is the table I said we'll be creating. So in this table, the first thing that we have here is person 1, then person 2, then person 3. So how will I do this? Person 1. Let me save and see what I have. Person 1, I can't see anything. Like like this is a table, but just like a normal P. Like I said, TH, all of them are just like all this P tag, but what are just doing just to structure and give shape to what you're actually writing, to your element. TH, which is person 2. Person 2. Let me save this and visualize. So I have this. Yes, they're actually in line with each other, but we would not see the difference yet. But when I actually start, I would actually add a little CSS here so that you actually be able to see the difference between these, because you actually see that, okay, they're just like on a straight line. So let me do that. Yeah. So I would not be using the previous class. We actually used like external CSS, which was being called. So within this class, I would like to take you guys a little about how internal CSS work. With internal CSS, you are calling your CSS in one same file. So calling your CSS in one same file you have it like just call your styles. Like I said, VS Code actually will predict everything you need. So you don't need to stress yourself too much in trying to cram everything. Just know the starting, then know what you need. With VS Code, it's actually very easy to code. So with styles, this is my style. Then what I need to actually put in my style, what I want to style my table. So when I style my table, I'll show you what is going to look like. Styling my table, I'll put a border. The function of borders is like a box, but now you want to put a color on the border, on the edges of the box, like straight line to cover the box. So let me put example. For example, I put 1 pixel. In this is CSS, so I actually know that you probably will not understand fully, or unless those who actually have prior knowledge, so how HTML and CSS actually works. But now it's actually very fine that you don't fully understand all this, but I know with time you would actually, before the end of this program, absolutely, you would understand the function of CSS in your code. You actually should have been seeing the function of CSS in your code from the first text that you guys were given, the first task. So with this, let me put it to be solid. Then let me give it a color of black. I'm not going to use any Excel so that you would not have to be confused. Okay, yes. So now I styled just my table. It's now telling me that this box, this is where my table is. But now remember, I still have my TR and I also have my TH in it. I can actually style them too, so that I'll be able to like know the distinct one. I'll be able to like know the difference between them. So with that being said, let me see how I can actually add my TR and my TH. Adding my TR and my TH in CSS, you can actually add multiple tags, like you want to call multiple tags with just a comma, separating them with a comma. So putting my TR in this, then saving, going back to it, nothing still shows. Okay, yeah, it's still showing nothing, but let me add my TH. Have you seen the difference? The TH actually now, we now have, what is it called? 2 borders, like this border 1, then border 2. So because the reason why TH is not actually showing, the reason why TR is not actually showing is 1, from the structure of the code. Yes, it's covering this. It's covering this. Like I said, just table row. So it's not something that you'll be able to visualize with the style, but you can actually style it, like going deep into it and styling it. So since this is, so from this, and I also want you guys to actually be able to see this thing very well. So I will add on this my table, I will add a width to it. Wow. Okay, so I want to add a width to this. I would add a width to this. This is how it looks like on my screen. Now, after I have the person 1, the person 2, adding the border to it. So adding a width to it, I will be able to see everything I need. So let me add 100% width to it so that you actually be able to see it on full screen. Yeah, this is it on full screen. Adding width to it is actually going to take everything on full screen. So adding a width to it to actually show that, okay, since I just have just two th, that's like table head and this on this, so it's actually going to say, okay, I have just 1, 2, which is actually going to take 50% and 50%. That's just function of width. If I shrink it, it's still going to take 50% of my screen. Then let me show you how TD works so that you'll be able to know the difference of TD and th. They look alike, so you don't get confused. So if I should change this, let me add one more element. Okay. I think my system got frozen at a point. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, let me start from here, please. I will remove this, the styling part. I'll remove the styling part. Then I'll remove this width part. I hope this just stops. So I have this. Okay, so this, let me start from here. I'm very sorry for the break in transmission. It's actually my network trying to act up. So I have person 1 and person 2. So the previous class, as I said, we were taught inline styling and also external CSS, how to style your HTML either with inline, like calling it internally or calling it externally. So the previous one was actually external. So I want us to use internal so that you actually know the both. But actually, this is not the class for CSS, so it's fine. So let me start with this. Like I said, VS Code is actually very nice in the sense that it predicts everything you need. Then I'll be styling my table first. So I have my table. Then you would actually need to know the function of border. I actually said it, but I think my screen got frozen. So let me just add it. The border, you can have it to 1 pixel, as I said previously, then solid, black. What is going to change is just it adding a border. This is the meaning of border, the line on the line around it. That's what is called border. Okay. Then also I want to style the inside, this person and person 2, so that you actually know the difference and you know that, okay, the table is actually dividing them. So I'll just add the comma. You can actually add elements together with a comma when you're using your CSS. Like you want to join elements together, you can style it. Like I style a p tag, I style classes together, but you've not gone to classes yet, so you don't worry about classes at all. But tags, you can actually style them together. If it's a p tag, other tags, you can add them together to give them just one single kind of styling. So it's fine. So I called it th. I save. Now we have two borders. We have two borders in it now, border 1 and border 2. But because the way it is like this, I know that it's actually not looking like what we said we wanted to add. So I would enlarge it to make it bigger. So making it bigger, I would actually need to add a width here. Adding width is to tell it I want it to actually take the full screen. So I can give it 100%. That's the function of width, just the normal way of width. So it's taking 100% of it. So taking 100% of it, I had my th1 and th2, but that's the difference of th and td, because those are the elements that you can actually see. Those are the places where you need to actually add your element. So let me show you a difference between th and td, because they look alike and it's going to look very confusing when you actually continue, because as I said, TH is like table that's table head and TD is table data. But when you look at both of them, they locally look the same. Like you actually feel they're actually performing the same function, but actually no, they're not performing the same function. So if we should go back and see TD. So now this is the difference. The difference between it is one, TH is actually bold and is central. Why TD is actually left aligned and is not bold. So that's the major difference between TH and TD. So I also want to include a border to that. So now I have it as a border. Okay. With this, I would also want to include my next other ones. I've done my TH, but I don't want it to be here on my table head. I don't want this to be on my table head. I would prefer it to be in my body. So let me just remove this and put it on my table border. I use Control X, that's X to cut, then Control V to paste, or you can use Control C to actually copy, then Control V to paste. So with this, I can actually put maybe the main person one. Let me put silver codes. Going back, I would see, okay, I have just one. But remember, I styled, what is it called? The TH. But because there's nothing here, so it's looking empty. But once I add on that TH, it's going to show you. That's the difference between the table. That's what I mean by table. The table is actually going to segment it for you. It's dividing it. Like it's making it look well structured. Unlike when you just have things like this. Let me do this. P tag, let me just call. If you write anything here, then you have another P tag, then you see right. You will not see any different. Like it's just going to be on its body. It's just going to be on a straight line. On like this, they're going to be divided, but you are not going to see any good difference there. Like it's not going to be well arranged. If you want a table kind of format thing, so it's not going to be arranged. But with this, it's going to be arranged with the help of table. That's the function of table, is to arrange it and make them start at the same line. So let me add another one. Let me add another name so that you actually see the difference or what I want you to actually note about that. The function of tables. So let me put you can see, even though there's a lot of space here, but because of the TH and the TD and all those table elements, it's actually been divided. It's been divided from this slide. You actually have, what is it called? The table rows, which is actually telling this is a new row. Table row is actually to segment new rows. Then also we have the TD, which is the datas, and you have the TH, which is like the heading. So everything is actually going to start on in separate and actually a well-designed section, like So with that, there are also other elements that are listed there, like this column span 2, row span 3. But what you actually see in the difference between this column span 2 and row span 3 is actually when you say you have an element. Let me show you an example of the column span 2 and the row span 3. So I have this. Let me add my TR. I have this. Then I decided that I want to use column span 2. Have you seen? It's taking the whole width. That's function of column span 2. It can actually be column span 3 or whatsoever. Let me add that so that maybe let me use 3 so that it's actually very understood when I use 3. I add this as person 3. So let me add person 3 here. Then here, since I said it's actually going to take two space, like two box. So if I need the third, right, save this, you would see it's stopping at that two. It's stopping at that two. The third one is actually empty. So because of this colon span 3 is actually taking two space. But once I add another space, which is like TD, it's going to take the third side of it, which is this. So let me recap. The TH is actually to bolding it like a header and is always centralized. What the difference with your TD is actually the TD is always lighter and is always left aligned. So those are the two major differences between the TH and the TD and the TH. So for the row span, for the row span, let me add it like we know the way row is actually like this designed for row. How row is on the table. When they say this is a row on the table, we actually know how that is. But let's make it with code and see how it's going to look like. So if I come to this side and I add my TR, then I add my TD, then I say I want to add row. It's still going to, like I said, VS Code is actually very nice because it predicts everything you need, so you don't need to stress yourself. So let me add 2, and let me add Ashley as a name. Okay. The next one, let me say add my TD, and let me add TD. I have my Felix. But what I want this thing to do is the column one is actually taking this space. So I want the row to actually take two lines like this. That's what I want the row to actually do. That's the function of the row. So let's just see. But with this, you will not see anything. Even though I save this, when you go there, it's still normal. But where it is going to be affected is on your next code, when you're actually writing your next section, which is like I called my TR, calling my TR, yeah, I will just only have 2 TDs because now this is actually already saying I'm taking the next one. So you don't need to add the next one. Then you can add 2. So if I just copy this and let me just paste it because of time, and I save, if I go back to it, I would see that it has actually automatically taken the 2 rows. But for you to be sure that, okay, yes, that's actually working, because it's actually working, let me remove this row span for you to see. If I remove this and I save it, you would see now it has returned back that, okay, yes, nothing is actually going on again. But adding it back is actually telling me that, okay, I'm taking the next 2 rows, so don't add anything there. Then you can actually even say, okay, I don't want it to be a TD, I want it to be centralized. So I use my TH because you don't want to use your maybe text align center and all that. You've not gotten to that part, but you can do this. So with this, it will actually centralize and bolding it. So it's taking the next 2 rows. So if you add another one, like a normal one, it still is going to there's not going to be any changes in it. Like it's going to now come back to normal. If I add another TD and I put, let me just put an email. Okay. Yeah, it's still back. So you can actually style your TD even without you having to say, okay, I want to like put margin or padding and all that. Or I want it to actually take a kind of a lot of space and a lot of spaces like that. So with this already, you would have understood a little about how TD, the difference between TD, the difference between TR, the difference between TH. Like I said, this T body, T head, T foot, they don't have, they have functions, but it's not something that, the only time you knew them majorly is when you're paginating, which we've not gotten to. So when you're paginating, that same header and same footer is what you are going to see on all the pagination. So you don't need to create another header and footer. So you don't need to create all that already. So because now one same header is going to take up the other ones. That's the function of the T head, T footer, then this T body also. That's the function. The T body is actually saying every, just like we have it here. You have your HTML, you have your body, you have your head tag where everything in the head stays. Then also, if you need anything, you can actually add a footer, but it's actually in the body. But now the footer is actually going to come out of the, it's going to come inside of the body in this one, like outside of the body of this one. So that's just different about the TH, TD, and TR. So the next one I'm moving on to is the form. So with form, introduction to form, HTML forms are one of the main points of interaction between a user and websites or applications. Forms allow user to enter data, which is generally sent to web server for processing and storage. So what that actually means is, the way you actually have form, the purpose of form is actually for users to actually submit their data. And where are these data going? Because you actually look, okay, I submit a form, where is it going to? But there's only, that's the function of it. That is the difference between a front end and a back end. The front end is what collects the form, but now you send it to this, they can input the form on front end, then it's being sent to the back end for storage. So the back end creates a database for it to be stored. So that's why that's just the basics about form. So in form, I would only go through the form, the input, the text area, the label, the select option and button. But the ones like fit sets, I would actually, if there are more time, but they're not actually they're not needed. But they're not needed in the sense that it's needed, but it's not something that you have to actually use every time. There are other options that you can actually use for them. Then the output is actually somewhere you go deep into it. That's when you'll be able to know the major function of all this. But for a start, it's actually okay if you start with the basic one. The only road is for you to actually know about that. To know about that, there are other different type of form tags. So with this, let me add form.html. The first thing that we have here, which is the form. The form is actually the main parent container of all forms, of all the things that you need to submit. Input is actually like a form, but now the parent of everything is that form, which is like the way you have tables. You have table, and now table is actually anchoring, is actually parenting all your other containers. So that's how form is actually like too. So with form is actually you can actually perform a lot of things with your form without header alone. You can perform an action, and also you can actually perform how you would even save it, or everything you need to do. So with form, let me do this. Let me save it as my title so that you see the heading to change as form. Which one I live server. You'll see this. The heading has changed as form. So to put this, I will just have to come here, add my form tag. Like I said, I do say it. VS Code will predict everything you need. So you don't need to stress yourself in saying you want to cram this, or you want to try to put everything on your head. You don't need them. You need them, but you don't need to put them on your head. So with form, it already shows you that with action, that is because now with form, you're trying to submit something. So what action do you want the form to perform? But now we're not actually passing any action to it. We don't want it to perform anything yet. But when we get to JavaScript part, we'll let it perform something. In our previous class, we talked about divs, like opening and closing tag. This is an example of an opening tag. Like then we have self-closing tag like input. So with inform, what you need in an input is actually a self-closing tag who actually understands that, okay, which understand that, okay, this is a form, but now what type of form is it? We have various type of form. You actually say select is a form, you submit it as a form. You can submit it like selection, like the form tag, is a form element. You have password. Let me just show you different ones for you to actually know. When pressing type, I have button, you have checkbox, you have color, you have date and time, you have a whole lot. So at your own time, you can just actually just try this and see. You will test them, but with this time, I'll actually go through some of them, but I know that I cannot go through everything here because okay, they're actually stopping here where you see this week. All these other ones, you should actually just leave those ones. But where you see this week, that's where it's actually stopping. If you are using VS Code, you can still browse about that. So the first one is text. When I say form as a text, what do I mean? I am saying what do I want to accept in this? So what am I going to accept in this as it is a form? Then I'm saying I want it to be where I can actually input where I can type in things. So I can type in anything I like. Let me bolden my screen because it's looking very small. Okay, so I can type in anything. That's why it's the form. But now I want us to actually create some type of form. So I'll follow this strictly. I want us to create these forms. First name, last name, where I can input my name, a day, or whatever. I can input my last name. I can input an email, my email address. I can say, I can actually input my phone number, then do a select. But now let's get into this and know the different type of form. In a form, first, one thing you actually need for all forms is the label. If you don't want to use a label for a form, the other thing you need to use is placeholder. But for labels, what the function of a label is to say, what is the name of this form? Now, the first thing is when you input label, what is the form for? What does it want to save it for? I'm saving the form as my first name. So I don't need to even put, I can just put a short code, first name, just for me to know of what to save it as. Then now I can add first name. I save it. I move here. I wouldn't already that, oh yeah, this is the label for this form. Then I can decide that, okay, I want to create another type of form. If I don't add my label to it, I can't distinguish it. So if I put input, then I put another text, like I just call this, then I save it. I'll just see a lot of forms, then I don't know which one is which. Like, how can I distinguish them? There's no way I can distinguish them. So if I should add a label to this, I call a label to it. Then what is the label for? And I put last name. I just shorten it. Then I add in here last name. Just take labels like not p tag, but they're actually functioning almost like p tag. But you don't like the correct way to actually use it is. I know a lot of people would actually want to use p for their labels, but no, it's actually wrong. The right one is you using the right one, which is like the label for it. With label, you can actually store a lot of things in it when you are sending data to it. So that's the last name. The function of this for here is saying, okay, this is for what? Then in my input, I can pass in this same name, which is my L name, pass it as my ID, then also pass it as my name. So if I'm saving this form, what is it going to hold as? It's going to take in that, okay, I'm passing the label for this. So it's going to pass in that, okay, the label for this is actually, or what is being sent is the last name. So this is still example of where the text one that you can actually type. So let's move to the next one, which is like the email. So for the email, what you need to do for email is you have your input. You can even search for it here in case you don't want to, maybe probably stress, but actually it's actually always very good to actually, when you're starting, try to know what you want and know what you want to do instead of you trying to look for shortcuts. Programming is not about hard work, but it's just about smart work. You don't really need the difference between a senior developer and a junior developer minus experience is the smartness, the ability for him to use Google very well. So with that, you'll be able to like leverage yourself with Google, find resources, you would actually be very good to go. So with email, this will auto complete it. Then I would have my type, email, name, email. All these are not needed for this, but you actually, since you're actually treating form, you need them. And they have their different functions, but they're not something you would actually know here. But when you get to JavaScript, you probably see the functions there. So if I save this and I come here, because I did not put my label, see the way it's still looking. So let me add my label to it. This is it as email. Then what it will only accept is already giving me suggestions. These are just things that I will save from my system. So it's already giving me suggestion that okay, this is a mail. Something there must be at something.com in it. But there is a way that you need to like the way it's looking now is not looking good. So I don't want something that you will not understand. So I want it to look like this. But one of the best way you can actually do it is save your this in a div. When you save it in a div is actually going to say this is a new line. Like I'm starting this on a new box. So undo this and put it in a box for me. So if I save this and I control save it, this is a div among what we were taught in the previous class. So if I go back, I would see I'm not seeing any difference yet. Okay, yeah, that's saved. So it's now saying this is going to take 100%. They usually take 100% aside when you style it. If I look at this, it's actually taking 100% in this. So I can move the next one to a div so that it look like what we currently have on what we're trying to build. So I move this next one. I save it as a div. I move the next one. I save it as a div. I'm looking at my code and it's not looking neat. So one extension that I would advise everybody that's coding to actually have is Pretty Formatter, which should actually assist you. Pretty Formatter, look for the extension and download. I'm not getting it here, but it's actually something you need that's going to assist you. So if I do this and I format my document, because I've actually installed Pretty Formatter, so it's going to format it and make it look cleaner than the way it was before. So if I save this and I go back, yeah, I now have them on a separate line, which is like what we have here already. So the next one is phone number. Because of time, I may not be able to be typing everything one by one. I'll just explain them. So, sorry. Okay. Okay. Let me just paste this here so that we will not have to go up and right. So this is the next one. So let me just copy this from my code here. Then I'll paste and I'll explain after pasting what the function and everything, what it's for. So putting this here and pasting. So I have this, the label, then select. The function of select is when you have multiple options and you just want to select one from it. So you can have this, then it's going to say, okay, this is what I am selecting. Choose a car. When you actually see fields that it says select an option from maybe 1 to 5 or something, this is where it is being done. Use the select field to actually do it. So everything you actually see online are just things that are like this. Without just the CSS is actually beautifying them to make them look very beautiful. So as I said, HTML is just like a skeleton. Like that's like the the skeleton of every other thing that you need. That is, without HTML, you cannot do CSS and even JavaScript. So HTML, even in when you move to React, you see the function of HTML because you still use your HTML in React or whatever you're actually doing. So we have this select is a function of select. The next one is you have the next one to be this. Let me just copy this. I would explain. Oh, I did not copy it to the end. Sorry. Okay. Okay, yeah. Then you have checkbox. You would see things like they say, do you agree for this? Then you say things that you just have to like check it first before it's been done. So it's just this type. Like I said, it's the type that matters. With the type, you can actually perform other actions. So you can see checkbox. When you click or you click, you can also unselect, you can select it. So that's just what you actually, checkbox is actually what it is called. So the major thing you need to know about this thing is the type. Like, know what the type is, what type of thing you want to do. Is it a radio? If I change this to a radio, it looks like a checkbox, but it's different. The difference between a radio and a checkbox is that even though I continue clicking this, I can't deselect it unless there's another option for it. So, but checkbox, I can deselect, I can select again. So when I do something that you want is that, okay, you want to either to select either an option of gender or something, the best thing you should use is use a radio button for something new that you want the user to select one option. But when the user should select multiple options, then what you should use is the checkbox. Then you have this. Then the next tag I will be taking us on. Okay, let me go to this. I'll come back to that. Is this? This is a radio button, the one I just explained now. So because of I want it to be something that you'll be able to see and know the difference. So I want it, as I said, a checkbox you can multiple select, but in a radio you have to select just one option. You either select one, so you can't, once you leave one, the next one, when you select the next one, the first one you selected is deselected. So you can't select multiple options using a radio button. Aside you turn a checkbox to a radio button using your CSS. But calling it alone as a radio button, the way it would work is actually selecting just one option. Then the next input tag I'll be talking about is the file upload. For the file upload, with the type file, what matters, as I said, what matters in form and the input is just the type. So the type, you can just use one form, like call one form, but the type of what you're actually calling matters. So it's the type that distinguishes what you actually need and what you need them for. So if you call file, the way it is, what is file, what does file mean? Like logically, is I want you to upload something. An image is a file, anything is a file. So if I click on here on this page, tell me to choose an image or anything, it's pop up for me to choose something. This is actually loading. Okay, they tell me to choose something. So if I select it, it will actually tell me what I selected. An image is a file, but going deep, you can actually also restrict what you want a user to send, like the kind of files you want a user to actually input. With time, I'll try to if there's time, I'll explain that also to you guys. So what matters in form is just the type. What type do you want to use? Then there's also something that is different from a form, but it's also like a form, which is the test area. With the test area, what you see in test area is, if I save this, is like input, but now it's different from input. It's telling me, okay, I can actually write in more things. But there's one thing I want you guys to understand with text area and how it is being done. I can cancel everything here. That is not changing that I added this place as text area. Remember, when you actually have something like p tag, that's just something that text area can actually take. Even though it's a form, but now it's telling you something inside the form. So if I even input something, the self-closing is an opening and closing tag. This is an opening and closing tag kind of tag. So even I write this, you can't cancel it. It can't be cancelled. But with text area, you can actually cancel the thing that the element that is inside. You can cancel it. It's not as if you're actually removing it from the code, but you can take it out from here. It's just like a placeholder. Just call it a placeholder. But on the other way of you calling out a placeholder is when you need a placeholder on a form, is calling your input, then calling placeholder. The function of placeholder is to say, okay, in case I don't want to use my label, what else can I use to tell my users? What else can I use to tell my users that, okay, this is this form, or this is what I want to, this is what I require you to actually provide. So let me put example. I want you to provide your name. If I save this and I come here, I will see your name. But the difference about this is that I can't remove everything here. Just as this, I call this a placeholder for text area. This is also a placeholder for input. So here, if I type, it just cleans up by itself. But here, if I just type, it's add up. So I can just delete this. But yeah, even though I write, but it's just going to be there. It's just there. But once I start typing, it goes off. So that's just the difference between placeholder and also the text. Then there's one major one that after you finish writing your code and you say, okay, you after you finish writing your form, then you want the user to actually submit it. Then there's what they call input submit. Input dot submit. So now the value that is actually active, but let me save this and show you what it's going to show me. It's just box, but it's a submit. So if I pass in the value to it and I call it submit, and I call it submit, then this is it. So if I write anything here, let me just write anything here. Okay, that's what I just need. Then I click submit. Okay, this is not an email because of the type I actually used. So that's one difference between your normal type. That is, I did not validate it, but it's telling me that the type I used is called email. So what I should be sending into it is an email. Anything that is not an email, to tell me that it's wrong. Just come. Let me cancel this so that you see what is actually happening. Okay, so that you see what is happening. Alex, to be email. I'm just one of my suggestions. Then I have this. Then I click submit to tell me that okay, yes, the last name is Toby. So it's trying to tell me that I'm submitting something with it because of this action that is here. So it's saying say with the submit button. So it's saying if there is something I'm sending it to actually send all these details to it. That okay, my last name to be my email, this, what I actually added, the car, Volvo, the date I selected, tell me all the options I actually selected, then to send it to wherever it is going to be saved. So that's just what you need to know about the way form actually works with the actions and all that. But this form is not validated if you actually look at it. I'm not filling everything and I can click submit, but you actually go to a site where maybe, for example, Facebook, you go to Facebook and you see that, okay, it's being required of you to actually put in, for you to put in your details, and if you don't put that, you won't be able to submit it. You have to put in your username and your password. But first, I want to also, from what we have on our slide, next thing I want us to actually talk about from our agenda is implementation of forms using tables before we go to validation. Then how can we actually use form to actually build tables? So that actually, because now the way we actually have this form it's not looking okay. It's not fine. Just jam back together, like everything is looking clumsy. So with tables, you can actually build a form like this. One thing you should notice about this table is see the way it is being aligned, just the way you actually have this table form previously. It to be aligned. So you have this when there's no table. You can use table to actually style a form also for it to be aligned. So let's try to do that. It's still the normal way that you have. Create another one, call it table form .html, then shift 1. Okay, on my stem is shift 1. So I save that document table fm. Let's leave that. Then I'll still call my form I'll call my form first. Calling my form, I'll leave that on. Then I'll now have to call my table. Calling my table, like how I said the table actually works in the previous thing I actually showed, the previous lesson. I actually said when you call your table, the next thing, well, this T-head is not something that you'd actually, like I said, it's not something that you'd need. And I only told you the only time you need the T-head is when you know that the header is not going to change. It's one same header you want to use on maybe you have a table and you want a header and you want a footer on the table. Because now, for example, on the website, when you add your header, when you move to another page, it's the same header that you have. When you move to another page, same header. It's one same header that is being used. Also, take that as your table head. That's table header. So meaning when you go to another pagination, is that same table header that you would see. So that's just a function of table head. So you don't need table head in this now. So with that, let me just add this on my form. And I say my TR. I don't know the table head. So TR is the next parent element for me to call my tables. Then I call my TD. TD. As I said, TH is actually when you want it to actually be centralized, like you want it to be bold, and also you just want it to be centralized. But for forms, you want to style your form to look like this. To look like this. You don't need that. So you have your TD. Then the first one is first name. Label. F name. Like I said, label is functional, but it's not something that you would see a difference in it. So let me just put first name. I'll show you why I said you won't see any difference in it now. Because if I call just the TN and I save it also, it will look the same thing. If I do TD, stable data, and I say first name, and I save. Let me open my live server. You won't see any difference. There's no difference in it. It's looking the same. No difference at all in it. Okay. So, but the proper way you should actually put it, where actually creating a form is putting another tag inside your TD. If that's like label, you will need it, but other this you can actually leave it like this, call it like this, it works. But because of the function of the for and how label is for, so you should actually add it. So I call my next TD. And I can say the input text, okay, and I save. When I come here, is like this. Then let me call my next one so that you'll be able to see the difference. Let me just copy this. And let me save. It's coming up, it's like on a straight line. But let me show you something that you'll be able to know that, okay, it's on a straight line. Let me put something longer, like phone number, and name. I just want to put a text that is longer so that you see that see, even though the text is longer, what it's going to do for me is going to shift the element and make sure that the next one is starting on a straight line. So table, like I said, table is actually going to make it in a sense that it's not joined together. You'll be able to see the spacing and you'll be able to know, okay, this is ending here. This is a new column. It's going to segment it for you. That put this one on this column. This one means put this one also on this column. So with that, if you continue, you'll be able to get this. So you'll be able to get this. If you continue adding all this, but because I've done that, so I'll just let me just copy this. I'll ensure that at the end of this class, I'll release this code and probably the slide also. So let me just put this and let me see how I can explain. But there's nothing to explain, as I said. TD, you just only put your TD. You actually created a table. If you understand table very well, just put them on different table datas. Putting them on different table datas and calling table rows will actually differentiate them for you. So if I save this, and this is what I have after saving. This is what I have. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me save this. So this is what I have after saving that. Let me move to form validation, HTML form validation. But like I said, the only way you would actually know the TD and the difference is where you're actually putting it as a form. Just put in your each element in a TD and call your TR tag. If you want it to be a two column stuff, so you call your TR, add your two TDs, put in your element in the first one, then the second one to put in your element, something like this. Then you'll be able to have that. Then the last thing I have on my slide is a validation, which is the basic HTML form validation. Let me just create this. This is one of the major things when you're actually building form. This is like the important part of it. Other ones are important because you need to know them. But when you're actually building form that you need to submit, you need to validate some things like name and all that for users to submit. You don't want to be collecting, you don't want to be getting empty data. You have to go, but you don't need to like validate them at some point. So you need this basic validator without JavaScript. So I'll just leave that. Then to validate my form, I want it to look like this. Then it's telling me that please fill out this, because now there's nothing here. So if I put in this, then I click submit. It's telling me that I've not put in my last name, so I should fill out this field. So I can put in maybe my last name also. If I click submit, oh, okay. What I only talked about in this part is the table. That's the when I'm putting a form in a table. A table using building a table building a form using table. So what you actually just need to have is your table. Ensure that your table is always inside the form when you are creating your element, and also then you need your TR, which is your table row. Then on your TD, ensure that all your different elements, like all these, like your label, your input, they should be on a separate TD. If you want them to actually look, you want to separate them. But if you want to add them together, but I don't think you should actually do that. If you want to put them, because if I say I should add them together here, this is how it will look like. Let me add this. See, it's going to push the next one. So I don't want to, you should not do this. Well, this is the best practice that you should actually do. Put them on a separate line if you're actually trying to build, like segment them. Your first name should be on a TD, then your input, your label should be on a TD, your input should also be on that TD. Okay, with that being said, then for the validation, then I moved to the validation. Since I was actually asked to recap, so I hope that is actually understood. But for those that wanted me to recap due to my network issues a bit. So I have my form validation. Then for me to do this thing, I actually show for the validation aspect of it. For this, that I'm trying to input all this. So if I don't input a mail, to tell me, please add an heart dot say is missing at the email. So it's telling me I should add a proper email for this. So I had this. If I said the next one, it's telling me I should fill in, but this is the password field. So you would notice how password is being done. What you just added in password, not talk about that in the HTML this thing. The difference of password is input, then what the type is actually just password. So like I said, it is just everything in HTML is just so one thing. Okay, let me just do this. One thing that I actually always expect people to do, and what I actually also do, is you would have tutorials for almost everything you need. So everything has been done before. So you don't have to say, yeah, you're actually trying to build a new thing. So if you go online, if you look for a way to get forms, like you browse about forms, you'll be able to see the different type of elements of forms. If you go online and you check on forms, HTML, form tags, you'll see different other tags that you have. If you check for this, you see a lot of phones, but the main sources that you actually go for that will always advise people as a beginner to learn is W3 schools. You would actually see a lot on W3 schools also. So for the password field, I did not say is actually the input, then the type password is actually going to make it. I don't talk about this before, so I just have to go back to it. The input type, which is password. If I check for this, okay, so this is it. You're not going to see anything. This is how password is actually being done. So you can also validate your password, but that would actually cover that also. Because of time, I would also copy a bit of the code of a validation code, then I will explain everything in it. Then function, when you're actually validating, after putting your input, the name and everything, there's something they call max length and mini length. So max length actually means what's the maximum number like that user can input. So if I save this and open on the live server, I'll see this. So if I should put just AD, it will tell me, please lengthen this text to 3 or more. You are currently using 2, and the reason is being that I set my minimum length to be 3. Then my maximum length, the maximum name I require for anybody to actually put should be 5. So if I put input 5, this is it. If I should input this, I can't text it. I can't text again, but it will go. I can't input anything again because of the restriction I've actually added here. So that's the minimum and the maximum that I can actually put. Then the next one I also have, same thing with the last name that I have. I still use same minimum and maximum. Then another validation thing you should actually know about is minimum, and that's minimum and maximum. That's MIX, MAX, then MIN. Then that is being used on this number part, which is here. So let me fill in all this first. Password. This number, I put it that the maximum should be 2025, then 2020. If I should put anything that's below that, it should throw me an error. Okay, then 3, okay. Okay, this is the validation I added there. This should be 3, this should be 2, this should be 3. Validation for using a phone, this is actually tricky sometimes, because now I'm adding validation that when I'm trying to put in my phone number, this should be 3, this should be 2, then this should be 3. Because when you have like US, maybe the US based number and you want it to be a US based number, they have a way that you have to input it. And that's why if you see my placeholder, it is actually shown here for this. And the way I actually showed that is using the placeholder for it. So putting this, if I submit, it should actually go here. So for this 21, I was trying to show before, this max and min. So it has to be either it should not be more than 2025 and it should not be lesser than 2020. So me putting this and I save is actually telling me value must be greater or equal to 2020. Even though I add this, they tell me value must be less than or equal to 2025. But if I should add 2021 and I click on submit, it will go. Then the next one, actually validation on date and maybe date of birth. You see some apps that you request into the email, so like you have to be above 18 or something. The way they did the validation, that when you put your date of birth and they say, oh, sorry, the age required, you are not up to that age, is one, there is a max and a minimum. Then there is that to set the date, because this is the kind of output a date type would actually give to you. So if we should do this, if I should input this is a date. If I should input 12/01, then I input 2022. If I save it, it won't go. Value must be this, that is 01/01/20, and that's because of what I set from here, which is telling me that okay, it must be January 1st on the 1st of 2021. Then that's the maximum. Then the minimum should be 1998/01/01. That's 1998/01/01. So if I should do anything below that, it will not work. Then also on my form already, all these places have been cancelled. I can't select them. I can't see 2021. It actually ends at 2020. Then scrolling up will tell me that this is actually ending at 1998 also. I can't go up again. So the next validation we'll be talking about is, then let me talk about the part, when you're actually trying to validate and adding a title to it. Do you have this pattern? Adding this title, okay. The password, there's something they call, when you're actually trying to like use a password, this and they'll tell you that okay, this password is not, is not complete. What is required, you need a minimum of this or minimum of that. This is the kind of pattern that you use. But when you browse it, you actually see a lot of, what is it called, the way it is being done, the way you can actually use the patterns to actually ensure that you use everything to be complete. When you're trying to use it on your code. Then one important pattern that you can actually use is this required. When you want something, a user must fill it. If probably you don't want to put this minimum, maximum, and all that, with this required, a user must fill it. No matter what the user fills, in as much as you put your type and all that, it will always be there. So if I should remove required from all my forms and I click submit, it will go. Just like the former form. Okay, let me just remove required from this. And I save. Let me refresh. It moves to the next one. This is no longer required. Even though there's a minimum and maximum that are added to it, it's no longer required because I've removed that required field on it. So, but if I need to put something in it, then it has to be a minimum or maximum of what I actually input. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's any question about that. Okay. Well, from the question, it is actually no. When you're actually writing form, the reason why I actually use tables is that you just want it to be structured. If there's CSS, if you're using CSS, it should have been a lot better. You don't need tables to actually section that. With your CSS, you actually get everything right. And there are also CSS libraries. When you move further, you would actually see that you don't need tables. The reason why I use tables for now is just so that you'll be able to see how you can also build a form using a table. And also you would actually see that with tables is well structured, if in case you don't want to use a CSS to build a table. Okay, the next question that I got is, between placeholder and label, which one is best practice in the programming fraternity, or is it just matter of preference? Placeholder and labels, that are two different things. When you say placeholder, what you mean by placeholder is, in your input, what did I want to actually show? There are two different things. When you're actually using your place, let me the difference between placeholder and input, and sorry, placeholder and label. So I can put this as my name. Yeah, this is it. Is here, but I can't. This is my name, but once I start typing, it goes off. But with my label, it's actually going to be there. You can actually use anyone. It's whatever one that is actually okay that you can use. Whichever one is actually better for you and you feel is okay. But best practice, both of them are actually very good for best practice. Yes, password validation, that's actually register. I actually skip that part because going deep into that part is not something that is going to register, is not something we're trying to touch now, but it's actually part of input validation. In our next class, we're also going to we still have a little talk on inputs. So I believe that would actually be very well covered. So the question about the input validation. My question is, why are you using Dave? I thought we were advised not to use it. No, you can actually use Dave. Dave is just a parent container. Just take Dave as a parent container. Is the parent that is housing everything. Dave is just saying, okay, keep all these children in a place. Just take Dave as a parent. So you are the child. So what is housing you as a parent? What's inside you as a child? Then the parent itself. So you can actually use Dave. Dave is just to house whatever you are using. Yes, you can actually validate a checkbox and radio. You can just, in the checkbox, you can actually put required. For now, you can actually put required in them. So putting required will actually validate it for you. Okay. Putting required will validate your checkbox for you too. I'm trying to show the checkbox on. Is the radio input? Is the radio input? How did you set to be unable to select two things at the same time? Okay, sorry. I'm trying to read out questions, please. Sorry. My checkbox and the radio button to the function of the action attribute inside the form. Okay, the function of the action attribute inside the form. This is it. I can do this in a form. Let me look for a form that is not validated. So I can put this and say index.html. And I save this. Then I open this. Then I click submit for this. it took me to, what is it called, index.html. So the action is actually saying, when I submit this, what should it do? Should it save it? So if it's saving it, it's actually going to save it, send to wherever you want it to go, the backend. And if you want it to route to another page, just like Facebook, when you log in, when you try logging in, once you put in there's an action on Facebook. So once you click login, it will redirect you to your own page. That is an action. So I think that should actually answer that question. The radio input, how did they set to be enabled to select two things at the same time? Radio, you cannot select two things at the same time. I did not do that, I select two things at the same time on radio. What I did that you can select two things at the same time is checkbox. This checkbox. Radio, you can only select one. That's what I did here. Yes, I'll provide slides and the code for this. I'll provide slides and the code for this. What's the function of label tag? Label tag is just like a place, it's just, let me say, it's almost like a placeholder to tell the users that what do you want to perform, like what do you want, what should we submit? You are telling them that, okay, I want you guys to send your first name and your last name or whatever field I want people to input. So like this is a placeholder, this is a label. It's also like a placeholder telling you that, okay, what is required for you to send is your first name. What's for you to input here is your first name. So, okay, I think that's all the questions I have for now. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining.